Mr. Zutko, give me 30 seconds. Well, strike that. Senator Grassley is an active user on Twitter. I'll use him as an example. Give me 30 seconds on the type of information Twitter has on Senator Grassley or someone like him.
If there was somebody, just like what the CTO came to me and said, hey, we've got a problem with this user, is this user...
Just give me 30 seconds on the type of information
Sure.
that Twitter has on the average Twitter user.
Sure. What's the phone number? What's the latest IP address they've connected from? Are there other IP address they've connected from? Is this the current email? How long have they been using that email with the account? What are the prior emails for it? From the IP address, there's a where do we think they live? Where do we think they're connected to right now? Are they still connected even if they're not actively using the information? What type of device are they connected with? What type of web browser are they using? Which brand is it? Possibly which computer? What language did they connect in it? Those are at some of the front-end systems.
Thank you for that. And I want to be sure I understand. You're telling this committee that all of the engineers and half the employees of Twitter have access to Senator Grassley's account.
Half of the employees of Twitter are engineers. The engineers are by default given some access to the production environment. If it is, from what I saw, if they wanted to root around in the data and find it, they could find it.
Okay,
and
let me try
I believe
that
some
again.
have.
I want to be sure I understand, okay? I'm not trying to trick you. From your testimony, I understand that half of all of the engineers and half of the employees at Twitter have access to Senator Grassley's account. Is that correct?
Based upon what I saw, technically, yes.
Okay. And if they go into Senator Grassley's account, if an engineer does, for example, Twitter doesn't know that that engineer has done that. Is that correct?
It would be difficult to find the logs showing that, is my understanding correct.
Okay. So you don't have a log in and log out system?
There was not an easy ability for me to find which engineers had logged into which systems and what data that they had accessed.
Okay. So this engineer who can secretly go into Senator Grassley's account and get all this information, Twitter has no idea what the hell that engineer is going to do with that information, does it?
Under the hood, no.
Okay. So that engineer at Twitter could sell it, for example, couldn't he?
I'm sorry, could what?
Could sell it.
Could sell access. I've seen numerous accounts on underground forums offering to sell such access, whether those are valid or not, but I've seen the offers to sell access to accounts, to delete accounts, to unban accounts.
Well, that engineer could just call one of his buddies and say, hey, you don't like Senator Grassley. Let me give you some information here, and you may want to use it against him. Could that engineer do that?
With the access they have.
Would Twitter know that the engineer had done that?
Not necessarily.
Okay. Now, did Mr. Dorsey know all this?
I did explain this to Mr. Dorsey. My understanding is he did not understand this prior to bringing me in, and that was one of the reasons that he wanted.
Does he understand it now?
I believe after seeing this hearing.
How about your CEO? Does he understand this?
I believe since he has been there for 10 years and rose up through the ranks in engineering, and he has talked to the engineers, and they have told them.
Yes?
I believe yes. I believe yes.
How about Mr. Brett Taylor from Salesforce? He's the chairman of your board. Does he know all this?
He knows what I put in my reports. I do not know whether he understands it.
All right, you've got an executive from MasterCard, Mimi, I'm going to probably mispronounce the last name, Ali Mayu from MasterCard. Does this board member know that?
I do not know if she knows that.
Well, is this the kind of thing that a reasonable board member would inquire about?
I would think so, but I've also seen that what was presented to the board was not representative.
During your time there, did the board ever ask?
The board did not ask these directly. No.
Even after all these problems with foreign agents?
Not when I was there during the board meetings.
They just sat there?
They focused on other topics and other
Yeah,
priorities.
right. Dr. Lee, he's a professor at Stanford. Does he know all this?
Same response. I did not see any questions on this specific topic while I was there in
Patrick
board meeting.
Pichette, who used to be with Google.
Same response, sir.
All right.
Patrick Pichette? Sorry.
Pichette.
Yeah, Patrick Pichette was the one who, when I brought up this instance, he hit the roof. He was very upset.
Did he
said,
do?
"This is
Did he fix
unstandard."
it?
No, he asked for follow-on information.
And why hadn't Twitter fixed this?
There were other priorities.
It's about the money, isn't it?
It's about whatever crisis and the other
To
priorities.
fix
correct.
this would cost them money, wouldn't it?
It would take away focus on other
It'd
projects.
cost them money, wouldn't it?
Most likely, yes.
Yeah. Okay, Twitter for a while was going to go into the porn business. Did they do that?
I don't know that they did that. I didn't know they were going to go into the porn business.
Oh,
sir.
okay. Well, they were. Do you know why they decided not to?
I do know that there were discussions about content, about age-related information, and the discussions internally that I heard were simply concerns about lack of tools to correctly regulate or constrain it.
So it wasn't a moral issue. It was they didn't. Why didn't they go in the porn business?
I do not know.
Okay. Sounded like you knew a little bit about it. Last question. I'll ask you quickly, Mr. Chairman. Who sets the standards for censorship at Twitter?
I believe that comes out of council.
Your lawyer?
I believe so, sir.
And do they talk with the board about it?
I have been advised out of an abundance of caution that I shouldn't comment on any Twitter council conversations for AC Priv that Twitter might assert.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator Kennedy. Senator Blumenthal.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. Thank you and Senator Grassley for holding this hearing, and thank you, Mr. Zatko, for your being here. Your extraordinarily insightful and significant testimony here today at substantial professional and personal risk, which is the tradition of whistleblowers, and your cooperation with me and my staff off the record in providing details that are important to our understanding, and the more of it that's made public, I think, the better. Would you agree with me that Twitter has put its users' health and safety severely at risk?
Yes, sir.
And it's put the national security severely at risk?
Yes, sir. That was
And
part
its
of my
management
disclosure.
has misled its own board of directors.
Yes, sir.
And in that event, the management ought to be certainly restructured, shifted, changed, correct?
Yes, sir.
That kind of structural reform is necessary to achieve changes within the company.
That is my belief.
You've also said that this company has misrepresented facts to government agencies, most especially the FTC. That's correct, isn't it?
Yes, that is correct, sir.
And I think you shared in your complaint that Twitter management was intending to mislead as well French and Irish regulators about compliance with the consent decree, correct?
Yes, sir, that's correct.
How high in the Twitter management would you say that intent to mislead and, in effect, deceive government agencies went?
To the CEO, I do not know to what level inside the board. They did not know because of misrepresentation or chose not to push.
The misleading of government agencies is one of the reasons why stronger action hasn't been taken.
That could very well be, sir.
But it also, in effect, is the result of a lack of vigor in law enforcement, whether because of inadequate resources or a failure of will.
That could be as well, sir.
In fact, the most recent settlement with Twitter, which was a payment of $150 million earlier this year, the FTC and Department of Justice stated that Twitter violated the 2011 consent decree. That's no surprise. But the size of the penalty, a mere $150 million, amounts to the kind of burden on us average drivers when we pay the toll to go into Manhattan. given that its profit in the second quarter of this year was about 1.18 billion, correct?
That is correct. While I was there, the concern only really was about a significantly higher amount, significantly higher, or if it would have been a more institutional restructuring risk. But that amount would have been of very little concern while I was there.
To effectively address this problem, we need not only to insist on restructuring the company, but also likely restructuring, reforming, and energizing our regulatory apparatus, not only as to Twitter, but also as to other internet companies and platforms. Would you agree?
Yes, I would. The intent of the regulators, I think, is the right intent, but it is not being followed or correctly adhered to.
All of what you're saying, everything in your complaint, and a lot of what we've heard in this committee and in other committees leads me to think we need a new agency. As reluctant as I am to suggest a new government bureaucracy, I don't think it needs to be a government bureaucracy with a lot of new people, but it needs to be a new means of enforcement here to bring cases to the Department of Justice, focusing on privacy, security, and protecting users as well as our national security. Would you agree?
I had not considered that. I will have to think about that. It is a very interesting approach.
I'm not reaching any conclusions, but clearly what we're doing right now is not working. You would agree with that?
Yes, what I have seen, the tools that are used out of the tool belt are not working. I do believe other tools in the tool belt do work, but the regulators aren't able to quantify and get measurements that would show them to switch to the other tools they have.